How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I'd like to start off by saying thank you all so much for the support and the patience with me on making these videos. I know the past couple of weeks I haven't made a video, but I am getting back to one video a week. I will have another video this weekend, but I want to get back to making videos for you guys once a week. We recently had some family issue, and Andy had to go back to Maine for the holidays, so I was the only one down here in Tennessee, and I just didn't have the time to get in a video or videos. I know it's been a couple weeks. Also, I haven't been driving my truck very much. I've been taking the wife's truck, Andy's truck, for this reason we're about to talk about. So let's talk turbos. I've been asked by you guys, a couple of yous, about making a video on the stock GM turbos. How many are there? How much can I get out of them? What can I upgrade? What turbo came on my year pickup from factory? Are there any aftermarket upgrades? So let's get into that. So let's talk about which turbos there are from factory GM. There are the GM1, GM3, 4, 5, and 8. There's also a GM7 Turbo, but that one is quite a bit different, and we will talk about it, but I want to focus on the ones that actually came in the pickup SUV applications. These are the ones that I imagine you guys are more interested about to learn. So let's start off with GM1 and GM3. In '92, they introduced a turbo on the 6.5. So, before this, 6.5 diesels were offered without turbo. Let's talk turbos. So in '92, General Motors came out with the GM1 Turbo. They also came out with the GM3, and I categorize these two together because they are the only manually controlled factory turbos. They're also the smallest two turbos of the GM lineup. So GM1 being the very first one, it has the smallest compressor side, which is the intake, and the smallest turbine side, which is the exhaust. The GM1 was very restrictive, but when they first came out, they were definitely a step up from the naturally aspirated diesels. They did have a bit more pep to their step. They had quite a bit more power because that turbo was able to cram more air into the combustion chamber. The GM3, let me look at my notes. I have made several notes to make this video, and I want to make sure that I am giving you guys as much information, correct information as possible. By all means, if I say something, let me know down in the comments, and we'll be sure to address it. Let's see, GM3, both. Okay, so the GM3 Turbo introduced a bigger compressor side. The compressor side being the intake, it was more efficient at getting air in. I believe it also featured a slightly larger exhaust housing, or the turbine side, from my research that I've done, but don't quote me on that. The GM3 is definitely a step up from the GM1. If you have a GM1, I wouldn't necessarily recommend moving up to a GM3. I would say let's consider more options here, but if you found a GM3 and you wanted to put it on your 6.5 and you picked it up for a couple bucks, by all means, you do you. Moving on to the GM4. This was the first vacuum actuated turbo that came on the GM trucks. Every turbo from here on was vacuum actuated from factory. Of course, get rid of the vacuum pump. My opinion is nothing but a parasite. Put a manual wastegate on it. I'll show you that here in a sec. The GM4 introduced a even larger intake, or larger compressor side. It is allowed to get more air, even more air, into the combustion chamber via the intake. These turbos, being the first of their kind, really didn't have super big amounts of issues. Of course, turbos are a wear item. They're going to wear out over time. It happens. So just be mindful. But let's keep talking about stock turbos. These last two I categorize together because they are the more desirable factory turbos for the 6.5. The GM5 and the GM8. From the 4 to the 5, they introduced a larger exhaust housing, so a larger turbine side of the turbo. I believe they kept the compressor side the same from the 4 to the 5, but the turbo performed better than the 4 because the exhaust was less restrictive. The more exhaust you can expel, the more efficient your turbo is going to run, whether it be fuel economy, whether it be overall performance, response, towing capability. The 5 was better than the 4 just because of the more improved exhaust or compressor housing. The GM8, from the 5 to the 8, featured a larger compressor side. So each turbo was a step up from the last, of course. The GM8 featured the exact same exhaust or turbine housing from the 5, but upgraded the inlet or the compressor side of the turbo, therefore making the GM8 the most desired turbo. It was the most efficient of the turbos from GM that you could get. That being said, there's one more turbo, and I just briefly mentioned it, the GM7 Turbo. This one's in its own category because it is the only center mount turbo. As if you've watched my videos, you've heard me mention that these engines came not just in the truck SUV applications, but they also came in the van and motorhome and Hummer applications. The GM7 Turbo was the only factory center mount turbo. What I mean by that is you see the factory turbo on the trucks. On the passenger side, they feature exhaust manifold on the driver's side, connected to a crossover pipe that goes over to the passenger side. The passenger side manifold is basically a turbo pedestal and manifold all in one. The center mount turbo on the H1 Hummers was center mount, so it was more of a Duramax design. It featured better flow than having a crossover pipe. It featured two up pipes that came to a turbo pedestal that would roughly sit, or would sit, right where the factory fuel filter housing is. The reason why that these trucks didn't come with center mount turbos is because the clearance between the block and the firewall. Of course, those up pipes you got to have for the center mount turbo to work, and they would not clear the firewall. Also, with the turbo being right in the middle, the firewall got in the way of the downpipe or the exhaust of the turbo. So they just weren't able to fit. That isn't to say that somebody couldn't beat the shit out of their firewall and put a center mount turbo on it. Plans for the future. This is a little hint at that. But it's way down the road. I've talked to a few of you guys that are interested in doing that. I think that's great. Do it. Awesome. Please do it. I want to see it. But as far as the GM Turbo goes, of course, the GM8 and the GM5 are the most desirable. How to identify which turbo you have. So the factory turbos have a little label on the front of them. The number that you are looking for is the top one, or the SPEC number. It will be GM followed by the number of the turbo. Of course, mine is a GM5, so I have GM-5. The 8 will have an 8, the 4 will have a 4, and so on. That is how you identify which turbo you have. What turbos came on what years? And this is from factory. There's so many scenarios. Now, this isn't to say that, you know, your 92 pickup can't have a GM8 turbo on it. The scenarios are, you know, whether somebody just wanted to upgrade to a more efficient turbo, the previous turbo went out and somebody just picked one up, put it on. You know, there are so many reasons why you may not have the turbo that came specifically from factory, or, you know, the year doesn't make sense for what turbo you have. There's so many situations to run into. We'll get into that in a sec, because my truck is a perfect example. So, the years of the turbos are in 92 to 93 were the GM1s and the GM3s. Roughly in 94 came the GM4. The GM5 was roughly introduced in 96, and the GM8 was introduced in 97. My pickup is a 97 and has a GM5 turbo on it. That's not to say that somebody didn't roast out the turbo and put that turbo on there. That doesn't mean that it didn't come with it from factory. There's so many ways that could have happened, but you can easily identify which turbo you have, whether you want to upgrade it or not, with another factory turbo, or we'll get into the aftermarket in a sec. The factory turbos are not meant for 20 pounds of boost. And I know I've told you guys that that's what I am running in my truck, and that is the reason why I haven't been driving it very much for the past 2 weeks. They are not meant for 20 pounds of boost. They are not meant for 18 pounds of boost. And that's especially if you don't have head studs. I'll get into that in a sec. But from factory, these turbos came with roughly 5 to 6 psi of boost. They were comfortable there. They were reliable at that psi. But of course, you can turn them up a little bit to make more power, to make them tow better, more fuel efficient, everything like that. You can get a manual wastegate, getting rid of the vacuum pump, which I've done, which was originally located down there. A manual wastegate will help you achieve the higher boost numbers. If you do not have head studs, do not run it past, I would say, 12. I have done too many fucking head gasket jobs on these things because somebody put a manual wastegate on it because they've overboosted it without putting head studs on it. And then I wind up putting head studs on the truck so they can wind out the turbo at a later date. if you're going to do anything past 12 pounds, 13 pounds of boost on the stock GM turbos, do the head studs, because you'll be doing head gaskets at a later date anyways. I know it's a big pill to swallow, a hard bullet to chew on. It's going to happen if you run it past that. You're going to run into head gasket issues. If you have head studs and you're looking to get more PSI out of your turbo, do not run it past 15-ish pounds of boost, or your turbo will prematurely fail like mine has. My turbo still works, but it doesn't work well. And I literally drove it down here after not driving it for 2 weeks just to make this video for you guys, because honestly I miss making videos and talking to you guys. So I want to give you this information, especially if you're a younger person, a newer person getting into the 6.5s and you want to, you know, pump some more power out of these things. If you have head studs and you're looking to get more pressure out of it, to keep it reliable, of course, don't put any more than 15 to it. They're not meant for 15. Of course, you're going to prematurely fail your turbo if you run it that high. Of course, I'm running it at 20 psi max, 22 psi max, and mine has prematurely failed. And now I'm looking for another turbo. And I expected it. I knew what I was doing. I knew it was going to prematurely fail. It's entirely my fault. But I wanted to see what it was capable of. It wasn't capable of much for long. So I will be doing a turbo here in the near future. Stay tuned for that video because I'm buying a bunch of other goodies for it. And I can't wait to show you guys. And I hope you stay tuned and I hope you're interested. But keeping these turbos, factory turbos, reliable, just run them at 11, 12 psi. And if you're not looking to hot rod them, you'll be more than happy with the extra power that you will get out of it by running a higher boost pressure. Let's get on to the aftermarket, because that's where things really get exciting. I've done several HX35 and HX40 turbo swaps on these 6.5s. Granted, I've also done head studs on those trucks. The HX35 and HX40 are a solid platform for swapping it, and it's probably the most common swap to put on a 6.5. The HX40 works really well. You can get the boost numbers you want. Granted, it is a very good turbo. Done quite a few and they work. I know several people that are very happy with their HX40, and you know they swear by them, and they're relatively cheap compared to some of the other options. However, you get what you pay for. So if you bought an HX40 from some guy who had it on a Dodge, and you know they've wound the piss out of it, and it only lasts you 6 months because you bought it used for $50, you get what you pay for, and you rightfully deserve that turbo to go out on you if you bought it for $50. I'm sorry, but you get what you pay for. Now, that's not to say that that $50 turbo won't last you till you finally fucking get rid of the damn thing. HX40s are very reliable, but that's what you get when you buy used parts, you buy cheap, things are going to break. It happens. It's okay. You learn to fix it. I would say the aftermarket name of the game, and this isn't because they told me to say anything like this. I've never honestly spoken with them, and I just genuinely like their products. Quad Star Tuning is the name of the game for aftermarket turbos. Of course, there's the HX40II that is a bolt-on turbo for it, but Quad Star Tuning has put a lot of time and effort into making a turbo specifically designed for the 6.5s. They work. I've seen them work. and they do make great products. And they're, again, I don't know them personally. I think they're doing a great thing by continuing the aftermarket for the 6.5 trucks. I want to see more of it. Honestly, I want more companies, more or less competition, so there isn't just a monopoly of it. But I genuinely think Quadstar is doing a great thing. And if they watch my videos, hello! I think you guys are doing a great thing. Please keep it up. I genuinely like your products. That being said, they make a Super 54 and a Super 60. I've heard really good things out of the Super 60 and Super 54, depending on what you're looking for. If you buy a bigger turbo than what you need, you may experience some issues, but talk with them. They will find out what you're using it for, and they will set you up with what better suits your needs. So, as much research as I've done for the Super 60, the Super 54, again, I see the stats, and I like the Super 54. I've just done more research on the Super 60. The Super 60 is a 6.5 specifically modified HX40 from 6.5, or from Quadstar Tuning. They basically, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, took a HX40 and specifically modified it to suit the needs of a 6.5 properly. That is awesome. Kudos to you guys, seriously. But I genuinely think that is an awesome thing. And as far as price goes, again, you get what you pay for. Yes, they are a little pricey, but the way I've seen is they're a company that stands behind their products. If you have any issues, you can get a hold of them. So they're kind of the name of the game for me personally as far as the aftermarket 465. Of course, there's Heath and Leroy, of course. Leroy does some really good stuff as well. Not knocking him at all, because I believe Leroy was around way before Quadstar. Hello to you as well. I wish I could buy a P400 off you, but I know they don't make them anymore. But moving on with the video, so that is the aftermarket as far as I'm concerned with 6.5 turbos. Let me know what you guys have running on your trucks. What year model you have for a truck, what you're running for turbos. I want to hear you guys. I love talking to you guys. I know, again, 2 weeks, quite a while. I will get back into the routine of making videos regularly. Thank you all so much for being patient, but I want to hear what you guys are running, honestly. Tell me what you guys think. What do you think that I'm going to buy for my truck? I definitely have some plans for it. I hope you guys will stick around for that. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you like my truck, if you like more trucks like mine, you love IDI diesels in general, please check out my Instagram, check out the IDI Legends Instagram, Facebook, and if you are interested in any merch, such as hoodies that are now available, t-shirts, hats, stickers, all that, please go by the website. I'll leave all the links in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments below. Get a hold of me personally on Facebook or Instagram. I'll be more than happy to listen to your questions, comments, and concerns. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, thank you all for your patience, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, legends.